I want to get my chat going real fast. Okay, that looks good. Let's see how we make this work here. It is a beautiful Sunday. Guys, come on in, come on in. We'll kick this thing off relatively soon. Let's see what we have here. All right, let's make sure I'm getting the chats. It looks like we got about 4 people already connected. I am live. I am live. Come on in, guys. Come on in. Let's do this. Okay, why is my chat's not coming up to the queue? Guys, if you can hear me, do me a favor and leave me a 1 in the queue or in the chat. I want to make sure that everybody can hear me loud and clear. So guys, if you can hear me, leave me a 1. Good or happy Sunday, guys. Happy Sunday. It looks like you've got some folks in the chat already. Do me a favor, come in. If you can hear me, leave me a 1 in the chat. Also, leave your city and state where you're coming from. Francis, you made it. Professor Block Ops, man, what's happening, man? What is going on? We got some folks in the house. Let's do this. Let's do this. All right, we got Francis in the house. Okay. We also got Professor Black Ops in the house. My peoples. Thank you guys for joining me on this Sunday. We have a good show for you guys. We have a good show for you guys. You know, I am going to make this a very informal conversation with a good brother of mine. We got Charlotte, North Carolina in the house. Look at that, guys. Leave your city and state when you guys come in. Share that with us. Share that. Dallas, Texas in the house. Indianapolis in the house. Charlotte, North Carolina. Florida's in the house. Look at that, man. We got all kinds of people coming in here. It's the Florida. Okay. We got Dallas, Indianapolis. And guys, I got a good show ready for you guys. So you guys already know. Let's give it another minute and then I'll get started. While you come in to the chat, guys, do me a favor, make sure you hit that like button. That helps us grow. That definitely helps us grow this channel, and I really appreciate you guys rocking with me. Kavito, what's happening, man? What's happening? Brooklyn, New York is in the house.
What's up?
What is happening, everybody?
I say what's up? I say what's up?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? We got Tangeray Gin and Tonic in the house as well, too. So we'll get started in 1 minute. But again, guys, when you come into the chat, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button, guys. Go ahead and hit that like button. Aaron's in the house as well, too. What's happening, Aaron? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Let us get the countdown going for another couple seconds, and we'll get started. It looks like we got about, what is that? About 12 people. About 12 people watching us right now, man. So it's going to continue to go up. What's happening, man? What's happening, Aaron? I really appreciate you, brother. Thank you for joining us today. If you guys see this back here, I got the blue label on deck because I got a good brother of mine that's going to come give us some game today, and I'm very excited to have him on the show. But let me do this. Let me get rid of this chat screen so that we can get started. So guys, you already know that, you know, we talk about, you know, information systems on this channel. We talk about tech careers. We talk about, you know, getting to the bag, right? Making money. And we talk about doing it by climbing the ladder in your professional life, being able to use that money to get to high paying positions and leverage that to make even more money, right? To use that to invest in real estate or whatever else that you want to do, your side business, your side hustles, and so forth. And I think I shared with you all about a month ago, in the month of July, I decided that I wanted to test my value in the marketplace, right? I work for a great company, and I also do coaching with Black Heights. And one of the things that I'll always talk to people about is, you know, knowing their value, knowing where they want to get to and getting there. But I also wanted to make sure that I knew what companies were doing from an interview perspective so that I can give some really good insights to the folks that I'm coaching and obviously you all who follows me as well on this channel. So I like to back my thoughts with facts and evidence, and you guys saw that I was able to obviously land a $140,000 offer in the month of July and so forth. Well, there's a lot of things that I've learned going through that process, and I want to share with you all something that I think is relatively good. If you are in a stable part of your career, right? You may be in a stable part of your career. You may be just getting ready to go into a job market. You may be wanting to do a career transition. And this is something that I came across from an article perspective that I just wanted to share with you all because I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And it's going to really set the tone into our conversation today about, obviously testing your place in the market, knowing your value, and taking opportunities with obviously putting yourself out there on the market. So this is a great article that I wanted to share with you all. It's called Why Should You Go to That Interview Even If You Don't Want to? And a whole part of going through this interview process that I learned that I want to share with you guys is that you might find a hidden gem, right? A lot of us aren't wanting to put ourselves on the market because we are scared, we don't know our value and things like that. But if you put yourself on the market, you apply to a position, you end up getting it, you may be finding a hidden gem that's going to get you to a higher salary and a higher opportunity within a new company. Another reason is you may obviously improve your interview skills. That's the reason why I chose to do it. I wanted to improve my interview skills because I haven't been on the market for a long time. And I'm coaching people who are going through the process now. And practice makes perfect. And I wanted to make sure that my interview skills were up to par because if the company that I'm currently working for wants to carry out interviews for other positions of higher rank, I need to make sure that I am able to go through that process and have a sound foundation. So that's another reason why I put myself on the market as well too. And that's another reason that you can put yourself on the market too if you have not gone through an interview in a long time and you're looking to make a career transition, or if you're just, looking to test the market. And the last one I would say is this, right? You'll get insider information. That's another reason, right? So you will learn about the latest and greatest tools or, processes that are going on in these companies. When I went on that interview process, I learned that there were so many autonomous vehicles going on inside of warehouses and distribution centers and, things that they're starting to do with supply chain and blockchain and things like that, stuff that, I had never heard of before, or, stuff that I did hear about, but didn't know who was actually using that sort of information. So these are really the reasons why I personally think that even if you are in a stable job, you should be looking to gain additional experience from the interview process to see if, the grass is greener, potentially make more money, right? To learn about what companies are doing to stay up on par with the latest and greatest trends and technologies, and also to button up your interview experience because you never know what may happen tomorrow, right? A lot of us potentially have lost our jobs, right? And we weren't, prepared for it. Knowing the interview process, knowing that you are buttoned up in the interview process will give you a leg up on others who haven't been through that process in quite some time. So with that being said, I have brought to the table somebody, a good friend of mine, and I'm going to set the tone on this one. So a gentleman that I'm bringing online to the platform today has been on the platform, and he is a good friend of mine. And I met Chang, who we're going to go with his name is Mr. Chang. I met Chang in grad school. And to be honest, we always talk about soft skills and relationships and things like that. Chang and I never really talked in grad school, right? We were just on our different paths. We graduated the same year in the same actual program, and we talked. We had a conversation here and there, but we weren't very close. We weren't part of the same group assignments and things like that. And when I came back from Malaysia after we had graduated, so we graduated in 2015. I went to Malaysia and took on a new job, running a division in the company that I'm still with today. And Chang continued to climb the ladder in his company and went to Google, who we're going to be talking about today. And when I moved to California after coming back from Malaysia, Chang was in California as well. And we linked up at that point in time. And ever since then, Chang and I have had conversations just about on a monthly basis, right? So it's good to always have a good personal brand. That's something that I want you guys to always remember. Even though you don't know, and have a good a relationship that's very tight at that point in time, you never know the types of relationships you're going to have with people later on in the future. So that's something that I want you guys to take away from this conversation as well, too, that we're going to have with Mr. Chang. Chang and I were not close back in 2015 in grad school. I mean, we said hi, we enjoyed each other in the classrooms and stuff like that, but we didn't never have like a one-on-one conversation. And to this day right now, Chang is a resource for me and I'm a resource for him. He's willing to pick up the phone at any point in time to help me with anything going on in my life. He's willing to give me trends and things like that and tips on how I can help other people, especially being at a company like Google, where a lot of you want to work, especially you guys going into college and getting ready to graduate. So let's do this. I'm going to bring my brother Chang on to this conversation today. Give me a minute, Chang. Let me just get you up here and get your audio working. And I want you to introduce yourself, man, Chang. So guys, you know what? I want you guys to, obviously listen to the words that Chang is going to say during this interview. And I want this to be an opportunity for you all too, knowing that he works at Google and you're going to hear his background and you're going to hear his story. Ask questions because we're going to be able to get to the questions that you guys have as well. We're going to do our best to get to some of the questions as well too, guys. But Chang is a Googler. He's a good friend of mine. We went to grad school together and we're very close. So Chang, welcome to the Black Heights Show today, man. How are you doing, brother?
Doing well, my friend.
Awesome,
well.
Awesome. You're doing well. What time is it there where you at right now, man?
11:12.
11:12. Oh, that's right. You guys are 2 hours behind us. So Chang is on the West Coast and he's a Googler. And I want you to, Chang, just go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Certainly. So I met Antoine back in 2015 during our B School program. We met each other in passing across many of the interactions with the other B School candidates. And at the very end, like he said, we knew each other. We were acquaintances, but we weren't very close. But it's very important that you don't lose sight of the ones you encounter because those are the folks who will come back in your story later on. So that said, after B School, spent quite a few years in consulting. I think total was almost 10 years. And 2017, joined Google, have been with their HR operations and serve as a technology program manager within. And that's my career experiences in a nutshell.
Awesome. So Chang is a Googler, guys. Chang is a Googler. Chang is one of those guys that we all sometimes aspire ourselves to be. A lot of you want to work for Google. At one point in time, I wanted to work for Google as well, too, right? Everybody wants to work for Google. I'm a big fan of the Pixel. I've had every year this phone, I believe, except the Pixel 4. But Google is a large company and it carries a lot of weight and it carries a lot of clout. Chang, before we get to talking about Google, tell folks about, what you majored in when you went to college. Obviously, we know you got your master's, but tell people a little bit more about your background and kind of your college history and kind of the things that you've done in your professional career.
Certainly. If you take a look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see that I graduated 2006 from a business background, operations. And from that point onwards, the journey was all over the place. There's not like a single thread that tied everything together, unless you look at it from the perspective of an entrepreneur, which is what I aspire to be. And ultimately, all of this coalesced to my decision to join Google because they do have a program internally that allows people with ideas to bring it to market within the company. And, I'm just waiting for my time.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So management was his undergrad, right? So although we talk about all the time, STEM and science, technology, engineering, and math, right? And specifically the management information systems a lot on this channel, right? Because I think it's one of the best majors, especially for the folks who are in college and wanting to get into the tech space, right? And the folks who are going to go back to college to get into the tech space. I think management information systems is a fantastic major because it provides the business side, because it is a business major, as well as the technology side from an information systems perspective. And obviously we got Mr. Chang here who has a bachelor's of business administration, but it's in management. That's correct, right?
That's
good,
right.
Good. So, and Chang has been more on the operational side, and you worked in consulting as well too. Talk about your experience in taking something like a management degree and getting into consulting, and why you chose to go down that path.
Certainly. Going back to the lens of the entrepreneurship, I wanted to learn what problems all the companies faced, the
Yep.
ones that are successful, and if I were to eventually start my own place, be able to avoid it myself. So that was a simple answer why consulting over others is consultants go in and help companies solve business problems. And these are problems that if I keep in mind, I can apply it to anything that I do later on in life, as well as any of the roles that I serve. So it was a twofer, if you will. I can take it to apply to my work, and I can take it and apply it to my personal experiences going forward.
So Chang went into the consulting space, right, to learn about what companies are doing, right, to gain a lot of experience there, and he's using that experience to eventually get to a point where he can become an entrepreneur, right? So there's a goal right there of Chang wanting to be an entrepreneur sometime in life. And obviously directly out of college, he went into the consulting space, which I think is a fantastic career option. And many of you guys, if you're in the consultant space right now, I think Gabe is in a consultant. I see him in the chat. What's up, blind guy and his wife and their life? What's up, Michelle Thomas, Michael Thomas? What's up, Dr. D is in the house as well too, man. So if you guys are a consultant, leave a one in the chat, right? And I want you guys to kind of write a line or two about your consulting experience. But Chang, talk about your consulting experience, and then we're going to lead that into the technology trends, and then we're going to jump into Google and what people can do to get into Google, because that's where I think a lot of people are coming to the show today, is they want to get to that Google money, because we talk about that all the time. Google is a big company. They pay people very well, right? And a lot of people aspire to work for a technology company like that. So I want for us to be able to get to that area as well too, a part of this show, to give people some tips and some insights of how they can actually do it. But before there, talk about the consulting part of it, of your career, going into who you work for in the consulting space first.
Now, I'll take a step back and share a little bit more about my history. My first role out of college was in marketing automation, not yet consulting, but I found that role to be not fulfilling and wanted a bit more diversity in terms of problems to solve, as well as the learning about other business problems. So that's what led me towards consulting. But for consulting companies, I worked with all different sizes, two of the big four, various sizes of medium and small. So starting off, Encode was the first company I worked with. Then I joined Deloitte, then joined another firm at the first year of operation, ImagineX, and then finally EY before joining Google. So that journey alone just went from various sizes across different sectors. A large chunk of it was around management consulting, but also did technology strategy architecture, as well as systems integration, both in private and in the public space. And then finally, that opened the door towards where I am now.
Nice. So let's talk about that. So let's talk about, being in a consulting space, what you've seen, and we talk about this, right? We talk about soft skills. We talk about, technology skills, the hard skills and stuff like that. Talk about the trends that you're starting to see with you, being in a consulting space and then leading you into Google, right? What are some of the technology trends? What are some of the things that the folks on this show should be looking to get into, right? Last week, I believe it was on Friday, we talked about how data is becoming a huge part of everything that we do. So any sort of career around, data analytics, AI and stuff like that is the future, right? Cybersecurity and things like that. Are you seeing those trends as well? But not only just the trends there, I also want you to hit on another part of it too. With you being in consulting, talk about the need for people to have soft skills. Because brother Aaron B said this, and he said it absolutely right. If you're a consultant, you definitely need soft skills. So let's do this, Shane. I don't want to confuse it. Let's talk about soft skills first in consulting, and then let's talk about technology trends and how things are going. Talk about soft skills.
Certainly. The way I sum up soft skills is simply said, it's not what you bring to the table, but how you deliver it. So everyone who works in consulting has some mastery of some subject area. It's table stakes, but how you deliver it to fit the audience, how do you conduct yourself, those are what differentiate a successful consultant from one who is still learning. Are you thinking only of yourself, or are you thinking of your clients? Are you thinking selfless versus selfish? Your conduct defines who you are, how you come across, and your gestures, your words, your actions all reinforces all that.
Those behaviors that we talk about. We had a conversation last week too, right? One of the things that we talked about last week was this, Chang, how to be promoted or how to get promoted fast. And one of the things that I shared with the team and the audience here is that your people's perception of you really is determined by your behaviors, and a lot of that is a lot of the control that you have, right? Like, perception drives reality, right? And people have this perception of you based on the behaviors that you have, your appearance, right? Your behavioral skills, right? And these are a lot of the things that you can actually control, right? How you look, how you dress, how you communicate to people, who you're talking to, who you're not talking to, and all this other stuff, right? And I also gave some tips on ways that people can climb the ladder fast, being visible to the leaders ahead, making sure that you communicate your wins, for the team, but also you specifically as an I person, right? But also at the same time, doing things outside of your work. Those were some of the big tips that I shared with the team on how to get promoted fast. But you just reemphasized what we talked about on the soft skills perspective is it's not about what you bring to the table. It's about how you deliver it. I love that you said that, right? Like, obviously you can have a nice apple pie. Apple pie could be the best apple pie in the world. But if you deliver that apple pie in a way that is unappetizing, people are not going to want to taste that apple pie, right? That's how I would actually say it. People are not going to want to taste that apple pie, right? You have the best apple pie. I would call it Teresa's apple pie because that's my wife. And no, we're not going to call it Teresa's apple pie. We're going to call it Mama Wade's apple pie. And Mama Wade's apple pie, she makes a good apple pie around Thanksgiving. And I love her apple pie. And if that apple pie was brought to me in a manner that I didn't like, with some attitude or some behavior issues, I wouldn't want to eat that apple pie, even though I know that apple pie is fantastic. So I'm glad that you actually said that, Shane. So let's talk about this now. Let's talk about the technology trends that you're seeing as a consultant, a person who's worked for one of the largest consulting firms, right? It's a big four, right? As well as going to a company like, well, even before then, let's talk about your history of getting into Google. Why did you choose Google? From going to consulting, why did you choose Google? Tell people about that.
Certainly. I think one thing I do need to cover before we get too far from the last conversation is around the delivery. When I'm focusing on delivery of how you conduct yourself, there's also a strong predicate on knowing that the materials you deliver is of quality. So if you don't have that ground stake addressed first, if you're not able to produce quality deliverables, your behavior, your delivery can only go so far if the underlying apple pie isn't good. So we just make sure we cover that first.
So you're saying you got to have a good apple pie. You got to have a good apple pie and have the good delivery on it as well.
Before you work on presentation, correct.
Got it.
Otherwise, it's not going to be, you can have the prettiest thing in the world, but if it tastes terrible, you're still gonna get the same result.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
No, that's a
So
very good point there, Chang. Continue on, sir.
going back to your question about what led me to from consulting to Google, I think I covered it briefly, but it's around that want to aspire to the ability to become an entrepreneur, but
Mm.
not having to starve as an entrepreneur would. So that's where Google was very attractive. But that said, it is still Google. So the trends that I've noticed that since walking into Google is there's a huge fight for human talent.
Mm.
And even consulting can reinforce this. Your company is as strong as the talent you maintain over time. So
Mm.
every company can bring the best people in, but if they don't have the ability to keep them, what's the point? It doesn't matter if a company hires the smartest people in any university, but if they leave within 6 months to a year, they're going to still have the problem 6 months to a year later.
That's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. So Chang, talk about that. Like, talk about that even in more depth. What is Google? What are you starting to see right now with I would say this, right? Because we talked about this. 1 billion people are going to be able to learn or need to be reskilled, right, by 2030. That was an article that I shared with the folks on the chat right here. I believe it was on Thursday. 1 billion people are going to need to be reskilled because we are switching we are already in the fourth industrial revolution with this whole technology, change and things like that. So, now you're saying that big companies are fighting for talent. What does that mean? Share what does that mean? How are they fighting for talent? What are some of the things that they're looking for?
Certainly, they're looking for people who can be masters in their domain, but at the same time be able to grow with the changes. So trends around flexible business arrangements where people can work in different locations is one area that Google's offering. Additionally, they're looking for people who are able to take what they know and apply it in different ways. So the definition of intelligent isn't how much you know, but how do you apply what you know.
Mm.
I can be very good at reciting the pi to the 10,000th digit, but if I don't know how to use it, I'm just reiterating what's already printed. So it really is a notion of having people who can take and apply what they know, but also have the capacity to want to learn and grow themselves over time. And that's where I think is a personal aspect of wanting to grow that we're trying to identify with the individuals we're applying. The desire for the person to want to be more than themselves and grow to meet that potential.
So they're looking for candidates who have the ability to grow and have a growth mindset, you're saying?
Correct.
Good.
The problems isn't going to go, from one group to another isn't going to go away. Your ability to take and understand the problem, identify what it is, and then creatively think of different solutions to it is ultimately the main thing. Whether it's scalability, efficiency, or anything else, those are underlying business problems that have easy and mitigable approaches, but you have to know how to identify them. You got to know how it fits in your organization, and do you have the right people that are present to be able to address it at that point in time.
Mm, mm, No, that's good insight, Shane. One of the things that I wanted you to cover today is you got into one of the things, right? You work for a top company. I can't imagine, right, getting into Google, right? As a matter of fact, I'll share something with you guys. So Chang and I spoke last November. I was in Wisconsin. It was around the holidays, and we were talking about all the things that we're going to be doing over the next years, and Chang and I were just brainstorming about all sorts of stuff. And Chang understood that my willingness to help people, and one way that I see that I can help, especially the folks who are in college now and want to work for a top company like Google, is to really share my experience with them by going through a process of trying to get into a place like Google. So Chang, here's where I think the relationships guys piece of it really ties back in. Chang is a resource of mine that I have at my fingertips who's inside of HR at one of the largest companies in the world, right? And has been through this process. So he understands the skill and the game that you need in order for you to get into a company like this, because no companies are the same. But companies do, especially companies that are looking for really good talent, right? They have a process that they go through to try to get good talent. And I must say this, I've applied at Google Jobs before, and I've never got a phone call back. But being able to have a resource at our fingertips like this, right, and at my fingertips like this is very good, because what I can do and what I'm going to do, and I'll share this with you guys, I'm going to be working with Chang to really go through that process, to be able to give you guys inside information on how that process actually works, right? And I'll be able to give you guys firsthand experience if I am able to get a job, or what went well, what went wrong at Google. So Chang's going to help me with that process and so forth. Let's do this. Let's do this. We're going to go to the chat real fast before we jump into this guy. So Professor Black Ops said this: is Google going to get some of that Jedi government money? I don't know I don't know what he means by that, but you can answer that, Professor Black Ops. Is Google going to get some of that Jedi? I think they already have a Jedi money. I mean, they have so much money. And talk about that, Chang. You got anything to add on to that?
Not much, because a lot of it's still in conversation.
Yeah.
But in terms of the desire to go after that money, yes, of course we would like to have more contracts. However, is it the proper place and time? Are we equipped to handle it? I know before we apply for a government contract, we also got to make sure that the system is hardened enough, or even the talent is ready to support that work. So those are questions I can't answer right now. However, these are stuff that are in conversation, in consideration, as we're deciding which contract to pursue.
Okay. So Professor Black Ops, he had an answer for you, my man. He had an answer for you. All right, here's another one that came up on the screen too, from Francis, who finally caught us live. Welcome to the chat, Francis. I am so glad that you're able to catch us live. You're probably staying up late. I'm not exactly sure, but thanks for joining us today. So here's a question from Francis. What type of internships or background skills do you need to stand out to Google while in college? Ooh, this is a good one, because I know this is starting to get to the meat.
I would say learn the fundamentals of learning how to learn, how to adapt with changing environments, and then be able to articulately deliver what your learnings and your solutions is going to be the fundamental. I have a engineering manager I work with, one of my favorite. He came from an art background. But he learned computer science on the side, and eventually that was what opened the door that led him into Google and allowed him to climb fast. I would say what you have now, if you already finished school, there are different ways you can augment that degree. I think Google has a program where you can earn different certification, which teaches you the foundations of various subject areas, such as data analytics, foundations of other principles. You can use that to just augment and be a bit more knowledgeable in those subject areas, and be able to go into interviews and be a bit more commanding in those conversations. One of the things they like to identify in a candidate isn't just, do you know the material, but have you actually used it? So some of the, if you are in a technical interview, they want to ask you for solutions that you put in place. If you have prior examples, if you can actually walk them through an example of how you would solve the problem. That mindset is not something that can be quickly taught. It has to be catered and cultivated over time. So, use the materials that you've learned in college. It's not the end if you've already graduated. There's different ways of getting that knowledge, and just work and identify, what roles you want to target, identify what the gaps are that you've seen between you and that end state that they're seeking, and be able to use this time to cultivate yourself. So an example I like to share is, as a story I've heard, is there was a child whose parent gave them a size 10 shoes. And for a while there, they never could wear that shoes. But eventually, as they were growing up with time, as well as enriching their mindset, they were able to grow up and fit into the shoes that was purchased for them. So if you have that mindset in place, if you have that desired end state, that's your shoe that you want to grow into. And then from now until then, there's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of skills that you have to acquire to get to that point.
So you're saying, and that's good, Shane. I got it, right? Like know where you want to get to, right? And know where you want to be from an internship or not, right? And then leverage a growth mentality really to see yourself there, right? What are the things that I need to be able to do in order for me to get to that end state, right? If it's a engineer, if it's an intern, right? Understand what those requirements are as an intern, and then try to learn as much as possible so that you can become that sort of intern. Is that what you're saying?
Certainly. I would say every new role that you work into, make out a list of transferable skills that you want to gain or acquire while you're there. Make sure that you're able to fulfill every bit of your goal early. And if you have more, if the work offers you more growth potential, identify how much of that is actually transferable and be able to map out, if you were to leave tomorrow, what can you walk away with that is valuable to other companies? Take that and keep growing yourself, be able to be a domain, a master of any one domain, but also keep growing yourself, your knowledge, your transferable skills, and be able to layer it upon your past experiences, so that all of this coalesce into how you convey yourself in your stories as you're going through any interview.
No, that's good. That's good insight. We got B. Rodriguez in here. He said he has 10 years of sales, and it's 10 years of sales have given me a solid foundation of soft skills. Bachelor's in IT management has given me a solid foundation of knowledge. No, he have a good background like me, B. Rodriguez. I don't have the 10 years of sales experience. I actually have about 3 now, but my bachelor's is basically in IT management. We call it management information systems as well. But yes, the soft skills are definitely going to come when you are in sales or a consulting role or something like that, or even customer service as well. We got Brother Gabe that says this. He applied to Google last December for a TPM role. I'm assuming that's a technical program manager or project manager, and made it to the on-site 4-hour interview. It was in the team matching phase for 5 months, so I moved on. Wow. So he said, and one of the questions that he said, why does Google take so long to match talent for talent, or to match for talent? What's your answer to that?
I had the caveat last year as a year of anomaly. I've never heard it taking that long, just because last year was the first year of pandemic, and we were still trying to figure out how to make things work, how to keep the lights on. We had people scattered all around the world. Operation-wise, HR operation-wise, we were firmly set on bringing in talent, but doing it in a way that is safe for people, and also ensure that they can actually join the company safely. And for that, we opened the floodgates in terms of all of the a lot of the compliance standards that we had in place. We let people work in places that we traditionally would not, just because of various liability issues. But we did so because it was a year where, in order to get good people and show that we are here to support them, we had to make that call. And that's just this particular product area, the HR operations side. In terms of other teams, other groups, they were also in similar situations where they were trying to figure out how to work in a remote setting, and which teams could actually bring on talent during that environment. So I won't say that is a satisfying excuse for Gabe, but however, it comes with a little bit of caveat and understanding that I think needs to be in place for specifically 2020.
So it sounds like there was a lot of chaos that was going in 2020, like all over the place, right? And obviously things could happen in the process when you're trying to go through an interview process to get the defined talent. So Gabe, it sounds like Chang is saying yours got held up into the supply chain queue, where most companies are having problems right now with supply chain.
There's always concern about which team has the ability to take on people during that period where a lot of the product areas actually stopped. Like their growth strategy was placed on halt while they were trying to sort things out, and not many could actually stand up and say, hey, I can take on 20 additional program managers. That was always an area where we were trying to find the right match as much as we can. But it was a situation where we had to meet their needs, and the talent pool was there for them to use. But as far as taking 5 months, I will apologize. Outside of 2020, I've never heard of a case being that long.
Yeah. Well, I tell you one thing. The fact of the matter is, Gabe, that you actually got a call back, right? A fact that you were able to get an interview it speaks very highly of you. But Gabe is a super smart guy, masters in cybersecurity. The guy knows just about everything from cybersecurity. I got to have Gabe on, by the way. But let's go to Tangeray. Tangeray, Jen and Tana, I appreciate you so much for always supporting us with the $10 super chat. I appreciate you. So Tangeray says, so if Antoine can't get a call back, which is crazy, how would you suggest the rest of us try to get a seat at the interview table? Man, and I would consider myself to be somewhat smart. Man, I guess how would you recommend me to get a call back on a normal basis? Now I already know, Chang, you and I are talking, so I know how to do it now. Right. But if let's just say for Aaron B, who's out here, who's saying that he wants to know that it's difficult for brothers to get into a place like Google, how would you recommend for guys like Aaron or prior Antoine that doesn't know Chang to get into Google? And Gabe, you can probably add something to this one, too, because you got an on-site interview, man. Like that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. Go ahead, Chang.
I would say apply for roles that you can master. The ones that you have domain mastery, the one you can come in and start leading the work. Anton and I had a strategy where he would apply for roles that were of 80% fit, and then one that was aspirational where, it could be anything that he wanted to target. Now, when he was applying, those opportunities had other candidates in mind that were probably better fit. So I can't say that he didn't get the opportunity because of any reasons on his own. But you're competing against a lot of people for the same role. So as I think statistics is that prior to 2020, any one role we post would have over 3 million interest. And then it's up to the system and the staffing population to whittle that down into like a handful of candidates. So there is a big funnel. Being a company of high interest for most folks, there are going to be a lot of people you're fighting against. And if the strength of your application is not strong enough to get past the automatic filters, then that would be the first area I can work with. In Antoine's case, we were working on that to try to get his next round to be a bit more successful.
So what it sounds like, I heard you, and this is, guys, this is good insight, right? Right. If you think about companies like Google, right, they're going after talent, and you got to think about the world has 7 billion people in it. Let's just say that, right? I don't know how many of that are working and things like that. And these are global companies. And you're talking about what Chang just said. For any one position, did you say that Google would get like 3 million applicants? Mm-hmm. Holy
Before 2020, we would get over 3 million per role that we put up.
Wow.
And that's a lot of volume to sort through.
Wow. So guys, and one thing I recognize when talking to Shane, because I didn't even get a interview, right? Or I didn't even get a call back. I got filtered from, I'm assuming the HR, resources or the HR solution that they have that filters, resumes based on keywords and stuff like that. So I'm working with Shane to make sure that for the roles that I'm applying to and will be applying to, that I'm an 80% match. And what we also are working on is making sure that my resume is tailored to that sort of role. So guys, if you wanted to get into a place like Google, you can't be, if you are just a director, right? Or let's just say this, you're just a software engineer, but you want to become a project manager and you don't have project management experience, you won't be able to get into Google because, for the most part, right? Because you don't have that experience. So what Chang is saying is match yourself to that role 80%. So something that you've done before, something you've mastered before. So if you're a software engineer, you're going to have to get to becoming a software engineer at a place like Google, not a project manager, right? Get into a place like Google with the role that you're probably already safe at and you're really good at. And then I'm assuming you can move up from there, right, Chang?
That's correct. I'll also reiterate Gabe's last comment. I didn't get into Google in 2017 because I want to get in overnight. It took me many years of trials, a lot of no's, but I found a team that said yes. So
Mm.
whenever you see different postings, each of those are different teams looking for a specific set of skills and specific characteristics in a candidate. And you can have multiple teams you're applying for. However, all you need is one to say yes, but don't give up. I mean, it took me several years of trying, growing through my time in consulting to be able to grow into that shoe that I wanted to wear.
And so Cheng, give the folks a number, right? Because it took me. I must say, I applied to Google. Gabe, I'm looking at the chat right here. Gabe said he applied to Google since 2013. I think I applied to Google since 2015, around the time that I was in grad school, right? Of course, there was a couple supply chain I applied there, right, and never got a phone call, something like. How long did you apply to Google? So I want you to share that. Share your story. How long did you apply to Google in order for you to get in, and how many times were you rejected?
So late 2013 was the first time I decided to want to transition from consulting into Google. I was lucky enough to have a conversation that year, but they told me that they they enjoy my enthusiasm. However, I am not at a maturity level that they can take on as a candidate,
Mm.
and a little bit more growing that I need to do. So that was an honest feedback I took to heart, and that's
Wow.
what opened the door for me to pursue the B school. And I felt that there were some skill sets that I was missing, and I went back, and that's where I met Antoine, who graduated in 2015. I joined ImagineX in its first year of operation in 2016, and was able to understand how to grow a team, grow a business from infancy. Um, Having that skill, eventually over time, it led me into Google. But in terms of the number of attempts, going back to Gabe, yes, we do have a system that tracks how often you applied. And if you look at my record, you will say that I was beyond tenacious. I was obsessed with getting into Google. So I was able to find my record, and I was like, wow, I really didn't give up. And lots of no's, plenty of no's, more no's than you can ever imagine. And I can even share a little bit more about the transition year from consulting over. In order for me to get into Google, I had to go through preparing myself on a knowledge basis, on a soft skill basis, and being able to persevere over time. And that's just a quick summary of that experience. When I wanted to leave consulting, I wanted to leave because I wanted to spend more time with family.
Mm.
And in consultancy didn't offer that solution. So I had a strong desire to leave, and this meant that I wanted to get out, one, with the right jobs lined up, and two, with the options that I wanted. In order to do that, because I'm now applying for, I'm wanting more than one opportunities at the end, meant that I had to increase my funnel. So it became a second job of pursuing, applying, interviewing, and then also on top of my day job.
Mm.
So all this coalesced into, by the time I was ready for the Google interview, I've had hundreds of interviews. Got to the point where midway through, I realized there was a pattern to this. There was a way that you could start preparing yourself with as little effort as possible, and then start polishing my delivery, polishing the conciseness of the message, and then eventually being able to just go in for the interview. And to tie it back to your initial article, Google was a dark horse for me. I'd
Mm.
actually accepted an offer with a different tech company, and Google came around the corner and said, "Hey, we want you for an interview." And I was like, "Okay, I already accepted an offer. It's nice to know that Google's interested." Didn't think much of it, and then eventually the day before, I realized I hadn't canceled the interview, and I was like, "Crap! If I didn't do anything, I'll get blacklisted." So instead, um, I just put up a mentality of like, just go through with it. Like the interview said, just go through with it, even though you didn't want to.
Yep.
And because I've had so much experience with interviewing before, I was able to nail it with little to no preparation. But then, surprisingly, not only did I nail it, they actually made me an offer before I left the parking lot.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
So I would have thrown all that away had I not gone through with that interview.
Mm. So that wraps up. Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a personal story right there, Chang. That actually really talks about, that was exactly what the article was talking about, right? Like, put yourself on the market.
Absolutely.
Even if you have an interview, go through, if you don't want to, test it. You never know what may happen. And this is a prime example of somebody who's lived that experience. But also, I'm hearing a lot of what you're saying is too, is that you're going to get rejected no matter what. A lot of times going into some of these bigger companies, you're just going to have to really be tenacious. If you want to work for something, you got to go out there and get it, right? And you got to put yourself through a process to learn everything that you need to learn in order for you to be able to get into a large company like this. And, you know, from your experience, that's what you had to do. You had to consistently, keep applying until you were able to get your yes throughout all the no's that you got.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid of the no's. I mean, more than anything else. So the way I've kept myself up during that entire exercise was that, I looked at it in terms of I wanted options at the end. And in addition to those options, I didn't want to end that entire cycle with any regret. So when an opportunity came up, I'd say yes. When I knew it was a company I didn't want to work for, I still say yes, because I used that opportunity to learn and grow myself, gain the necessary knowledge for each of those industries, was able to apply some of those examples in other interviews because, they asked for hypotheticals. I was like, oh, great. I have one I just learned recently. So these are stuff that they compound you and get you better for that delivery for the role that you do want. And I say this is that a lot of people don't follow through with chasing the desired roles. And if you don't have that desire to follow through, the best and the most perfect fit could be out there. You just never come across it.
That's great. That's absolutely fantastic, Chang. Gabe, I really appreciate the super chat, my man. I've been having this on the screen and I wanted to get to it. Thank you so much for the super chat. Tangeray, again, thank you for the super chat. Let's go into some of these questions. I know we're coming up on time and there was quite a bit of questions from folks who want to know more about Google. Let's see what we have up here. I'm on my page here. Let's see. Tangeray, okay, that was Aaron. Let's see what else we have up here. Professor Black Ops said 3 million per job applicant. That's a lot, man. Let's do this. Me Same One said a fraternity or personal connects plus nuclear engineering degree or straight out of MBA program. Only black brothers I know that got in. Okay. Okay, perfect. And Gabe said that was an amazing story. B. Rodriguez said this: does Google have an internship program that could be used to get your foot in the door?
There is, but it's really hard to get into.
Say that
so
again.
You got to remember.
Say that again.
We do have an intern program, but like with job applicants, there are high interests, so you'll be fighting a lot of people for those seats. But I would not let that dissuade me. If anything, I would say, think about what it is that you're wanting to grow in that particular role, and then highlight how your training and your skills and classes that you've gained have prepared you for that role, and then be able to show how you can use that aspiration from that experience to grow yourself. That's going to be a compelling story that you can use to compete against any other candidate.
No, that's good. That's good feedback, Chang. Mr. Tanvir had a good question up here. He says, as an MIS major, what area should I specifically focus on to be an IT manager, data analyst, or system admin? You want to answer that one?
That's going to be a personal question, because which one do you feel that is an area where you can be a master in? Because there are different directions, and the individuals who grow fast within Google are those who have a mastery of a hot trend or areas that we're trying to improve. So, know strategically where the company is growing, know how to apply your expertise, and together that's going to really open the door towards accelerated growth. But that said, I don't have enough of your background at this point to suggest one or the other.
What I would say to this one too, Tanvir, and I think he was pretty much asking a pretty general statement, right? As an MIS major, what area should I specifically focus on? You're right. I like that answer too, Chang, because, both, I would say all three of these, Tanvir, are fantastic careers up for MIS majors, right? IT manager, data analyst, and system administrator, they're all six-figure ish job careers and things like that. But it's specifically, they're different things. IT manager obviously is going to make a lot of money, and the job market for IT manager is high, right? I think the job growth rate is around 12% or something like that. For a data analyst, it's high as well, and that's where the future is really heading towards as well too. And I think it was even higher than the 12%. But then you also have a system administrator. Each one of these roles can lead to the next, right? So it's really going to be you making a decision on which one that you want to focus on. Do you want to be a system administrator and kind of be specifically in IT? Do you want to be a data analyst and specifically be a data analyst? If you are a data analyst, you can become an IT manager. If you are a system administrator, you can become an IT manager. They all play into the career paths of some of the same roles. So that's a personal thing that you should be looking into. What are your interests? And then kind of go towards that career path. I made the decisions, based on salary. Now, if I was going to make the decision out of all three of these, I would go to IT manager because I love people, I love technology, and I love to make a lot of money. That's what I would choose, but that may not be what your goals and ambitions are, Tanvir. But that's what I would say about that, sir.
Antoine, let me interject here.
Yeah.
I would say also keep in mind that a successful person has the ability to grow into each of those three.
Mm-hmm.
So having enough foundational knowledge to say, if you're in a role that is specific for systems administration, but if there's a need for a IT manager come up, you want to be knowledgeable enough to say, hey, not only can I do the system administration, but here's what I would do to ensure success for that role. And you can compete against that. Even having the data analytics background, enough of that to be able to say, to tell a story with the data. What is it that the data is telling us? All three of these roles do play off each other. Having enough mastery or at least foundational knowledge to be able to make it useful is going to be the key that differentiates the opportunity that come up before you.
Good point. Very good point. Houston Phenoms in the house. My brother Michael, welcome, man. Welcome to the chat. I haven't seen you in a long time. Thank you for joining us today. I've applied and was rejected to Google. Very difficult to get in at the university level. Salutes, Michael. And I can tell you this, Michael has worked for I think Michael is at Facebook right now, believe it or not. And that's another one that's very hard to get into. And Shane, you could probably share your experience there because you went through that process as well, right? And Michael, if anything, Michael has worked for a lot of companies. I think he's worked for Chevron or one of the gas companies, oil and gas. He's still in college, by the way, at University of Houston, and has already had 4 or 5 internships at some of the largest companies that exist out there. And I think right now he's at Facebook. Michael, leave us where you're at in the chat. I believe you're at Facebook. Just correct me if I'm wrong. Jessica Hicks says this. There is plenty of growth in data analytics, cybersecurity, and supply chain logistics and blockchain. Girl, you right. You are so right, Jessica. That is absolutely truth. Data analytics, cybersecurity, that's where brother Gabe is in right now. I'm in a supply chain and logistics. I've been in that my entire career. It is a fantastic field to be in because, it's the backbone of just about everything. It is the backbone of just about everything. And it's a huge opportunity right now, especially after you've seen what happened during the global pandemic and things like companies shutting their borders and things like that and keeping track of inventory and goods and processes and stuff like that. It's a major opportunity, and blockchain is the latest and greatest technology. Absolutely. Noah Page says, currently in operations and professional services management, what is the roadmap we're transferring to IT management? You want to answer that one, Chang, or you want me to take that one? I'll let you answer it.
Well, I think IT management does have a set of skills that they're expecting anyone who come in to fulfill that role to have. Having previously served any role that could complement or have a transferable story that correlates your experiences to that would definitely open the door. Additionally, I would say there is no set roadmap. It's according to how you can sell yourself, how your experiences, the skills that you gain, and the story that you're telling ties back into how close of a fit you are to that role. That's what's going to differentiate. More than anything, do you have the insights and the foundational knowledge necessary to be successful in that role? We've hired people who didn't have a direct correlation to the roles that were open, but they had enough background and enough experiences to cover and still be a master of said domain. So I re-emphasize, if you are going to apply for a role at Google, you should apply for one where you can come in and literally lead that work. If you can't lead that work, chances are it may be beyond you, because you're fighting against 3 million other applicants who may have a large population of folks who can say, I can rock that work. So you want to apply for roles where you can be a leader in that role.
And I'll add to this one too, Noah Page. Right. So here's an example. I've never really been a program manager, but I've been a project lead before. And I've never really been in the IT department, although I'm in the tech space and really in IT, if you look at the bigger picture in the supply chain industry. And I went through a process most recently that I shared with you all of, putting myself out on the market and so forth. And I applied for a program manager role. Never been a program manager, but managed projects, of course. Never been in IT, but know about technology. I was able to get that role by leveraging my existing skills of professional services, operational management like you, and really getting a role like that where I was actually able to get an offer for about $140,000 a year plus a bonus. So there's a way that you can actually do it. And you just really have to sell the story, right? Create the narrative of how you would be a good fit for that sort of a role. Let's go up to here. When I applied, Aaron B says, when I applied, I didn't hear anything back from them, so no feedback. Hey, Aaron, man, you're not the only one. I think Shane went through that one too as well. But let me tell you guys something, right? Right now, I know that, well, you guys know that I'm going to be going through this process. So I'll be able to give you guys the feedback of when I, go through this process with Shane, getting that call back. What are some of the adjustments that I've made before in the past? What are some of the resume critiques? What are some of the roles that I'm actually will put out there to try to make sure that I'm a fit 80%? What are the things that I guarantee that I know I can actually do when I go through this process? So I'll be able to help you guys with my personal experience as well on how to get past some of these roadblocks that we've had in our past, right? Who else? Aaron B says this. Okay, Chang, you got some more time for about another 5 minutes or so?
I can.
Awesome. What are the main skills for a data scientist with the abilities in reinforcement learning and NLP to understand in other to apply in Google? That's a question, engineering cannabis. Do you understand that one, Chang?
I would say every role is going to have very specifics in the job posting. Use that as a guide. More than anything else, you're asking a very role-specific knowledge area. That is one area that I don't have a direct correlation to. So I can't be a guide in that front. However, I can share that the information they post and the subsequent interview is going to define on a very detailed perspective what they're seeking in a candidate. And it's okay to apply for roles that may not be exactly a fit, but show how your past experiences aligns. And if there is enough alignment, that opens the door for an interview.
Got it. So, what is NLP, by the way? Is that like some neuralistic programming? What is that, by the way, engineering cannabis? Obviously knowing tech, I want to make sure the acronym is right. What is NLP? Help me out with that one in the chat so I can learn something. Is it? I know it's some sort of a certification. Let me look that up. What is NLP? It is okay. How can I learn NLP for free? Natural language processing. Okay. Wow. Neuro-linguistic programming. Yeah, you have to help me out with what that means, that acronym is as well too, because I want to know what that means to engineering cannabis. Okay, Noah said thanks. Any other questions, man? My brother Chang here, he said this, Antoine. He said this before we got on. He said, one of the things that we actually got to do is, Chang is a whiskey aficionado. I don't even know if you actually call him a whiskey aficionado. Is that what we call him, Chang?
Just an enthusiast.
A whiskey enthusiast. And he said, Antoine, we got to have a cheers, a toast, for doing this show, for sharing his knowledge and so forth. And guys, I'm going to stay on while Cheng has to go. But one of the things he wanted to do, since we haven't seen each other since, I believe, 2019, since I left California. It's been quite some time, right? And then after 2019, we moved to August, or to Austin, sorry. And then COVID hit, right? So I haven't traveled since then. So, it's been a long time since me and Cheng have seen each other. And one of the things that we do when we do get together, whether it's brunch time, we have champagne, or we have a glass of whiskey. Being obviously guys who are professional and so forth, he wanted to have a cheers today. So Cheng decided that he wanted to bring out the blue label. So this is what I'm going to do right now, guys. We're going to bring out the Johnnie Walker Blue Label. It's one of the bottles that I have from Malaysia that I don't drink very often. But I'm going to have a toast with my guy Cheng for coming on to the show today and sharing his knowledge, guys. So this is the Johnnie Walker Blue Label. Cheng, you already poured up, sir? Oh, Cheng is already poured up. He was waiting on this one. Let's do a little taste here. Let's put this back over here. That's all. We'll fix that later after the show. Brother Cheng, I appreciate you always being there, being a good friend of mine, being a person that I can count on. Whether it's related to career advice, life, kids, friends, grad school stuff, tech stuff, latest trends, Google phones, all that stuff. Big thanks for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it. And let's cheers, man. Cheers to a good show. Cheers, brother. Johnnie Walker is always good. So guys, thank you for joining us in the show today. I'll stay on for another 5 minutes or so to answer any questions that you guys may have. And I'll let Cheng go because Cheng has to have some lunch with his wife, his kids, and he was very generous with his time today. But I'll stay on. And Cheng, I will catch up with you once the show ends. I'll give you a phone call. But thank you again, my man, for coming on. I really appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, if you need me on for anything else, if you want to do a part 2 of this, if there are more questions from your audience and they would like to learn more, they would like to have other concerns addressed, I can't say I'll be able to answer every one of them exactly, but I'll answer it to the best of my abilities.
Awesome. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for joining me, man.
All right, Antoine.
All right,
Take
brother.
care and good luck with your audience.
Sounds good. See you, brother. Yeah, so we are back, guys. We are back. Let me do this. What other questions do you guys have? And I would open this up as well too, guys. So this is an opportunity for you to get some additional information from me on careers, MIS, life, tech, and things like that, right? Obviously, I'm going to go through this experience with Cheng to help guide you all through a process of getting in some of these top companies, right? Because a lot of the things that people have a fear on is, why can I get in? Why can I get in? Am I good enough? Here, there. Well, if you guys have seen in the chat, there's a lot of folks, a lot of resources out there that are at some of the top companies, right? I got my brother Cheng. I know a couple other people that are in Google as well too, who can help. Some brothers, some not brothers, but it doesn't matter, color and race and stuff like that. They're willing to share the game in order for us to get to, the bag, right? You got my brother, Houston Phenom, who's at Facebook, right? He's doing an internship, getting ready to get a full-time position there. He knows the insights on how to get into these top companies to make the money that he wants to make. And he's pursued that. You got brother Gabe, who's at Accenture, right? There's so many. We got, Professor Black Ops, who's been in the game for 35 years. You got Aaron B out here. You got Noah Page. And Noah, I really appreciate the super chat. Let me get to that. I'll put that on the screen. I apologize. I'm just now seeing that. Thank you so much for the super chat, Noah. Really appreciate that. You got a lot of us that are really, able to help out in these spaces. You got Jessica Hicks. Jessica seems like she knows a lot that's going on as well too. And you have all these resources that are available to you guys. And I just want you guys to know that, we're here to support. The Black I.T is here to support by connecting you with the people that, can help out, right? So reach out at any point in time that you guys, want that experience to get into some of these top companies and things like that. And of course, you guys know that you can book a coaching session with me and I can personally help you through some of that as well too. I won't be able to help you directly in getting into Google just yet, but I will be able to have that, that process down pat within a month or two when I go through that process. I'm only going to share experiences that I've had myself. I can get into just about any other company besides the FANG companies because there's a specific process that you have to go through and you have to know that and you have to know people who's gone through that before. So I'm going to be working with, obviously Chang to help with Google and the Facebooks and, he knows Amazon's process and stuff like that. But guys, leave me a question in the chat. Let's see what else. Jessica said Chang was ready to go, man. Chang was hungry, man. Chang said, Anton, only have an hour for you this morning. I was like, man, can you go a little bit longer? The audience are going to hear a lot more from you and so forth. So yes, Chang was ready to go, Jessica. You got the nurse and the nerd. Husband is currently in the cybersecurity path. He wants to know best way to get to his goal as cybersecurity engineer. Should he get a security plus from then a CISSP or a different approach? I would say this. I would want for Brother Gabe, if Brother Gabe is still on, to give his impact on that. But I would say this. I think a CISSP is a fantastic way to go. I would say first, if anything, Security Plus is always the first place to go, right? That's the number one certification that you want to get for a cybersecurity professional. Get that first, and a CISSP is absolutely fantastic. I got one of the subscribers that subscribes to us, Simonyak. He comments on a lot of the channels, but he got his Security Plus first, and then he got his CISSP. So absolutely, that's a fantastic way to become a cyber engineer. But I would say this. Speak to Brother Gabe, and if you want your husband to know more, have him book a coaching session with me, or either have him reach out to me and I can connect him with Brother Gabe as well too. But he's an expert in it. He's been doing it for years, and he's working at a large company like Accenture, and he's also runs his own consulting practice as well too. Let's go over here. How is cybersecurity related to MIS? How can both career path fields correspond? So if I was to say this one, Francis, how is cybersecurity related to MIS? Well, managers of information systems, of information technology, have to worry about cybersecurity, right? If you think about it, you are a manager of information systems. One of the things you want to do is you want to protect the business. So when you are a manager of information systems, you want to protect the business. Cybersecurity has to be on your, one of the first things that you want to make sure you have a good understanding of, or you have the people in place to be able to manage that, whether on your IT side or whether you're on the business side, whatever it is, you want to make sure that data is protected and so forth. So how can both career path fields correspond? Well, if you are a manager of IT, you're going to have people on your team that's responsible for cybersecurity. That's it's relatively simple, right? I think anybody who is a management information systems major, one of the career paths that you can go down is cybersecurity. If that's an area of interest for you as a major of management information systems, that's a fantastic career path that you can go down. That is high earning, and also, obviously one of the ones that is going to continue to grow as well too. Let's go here. What are your thoughts on transitioning into blockchain? I think blockchain is fantastic. It's been around, I would say this, about 3 years ago, obviously when, Bitcoin and all the other large cryptocurrencies started to, make its way. Blockchain is starting to, make a big way into like businesses and things like that. And, really people weren't able to figure out a a use case for businesses. I think fintech companies right now are starting to understand that there is a use case for blockchain, especially on the financial side. I think supply chain companies are starting to understand that there's use case for blockchain as well too. I think that is absolutely big. You can already tell by just things like if you guys follow the blockchain Tezos with NFTs, right? Massive blockchain provider they have the largest amount of NFTs that are, obviously available today. If you're in arts and music and stuff like that, right? It's, I think it's absolutely fantastic to get into, and it is a path in the future. Thank you so much, Mr. Wade. Started MIS this semester and have an expected graduation of December 22. Wouldn't have been in this position if it weren't for you. I appreciate you, D'Angelo, man. I really do appreciate you, man. I encourage people to follow a path that is going to give them the best opportunities in life. And that's what we want to see. We want to see more people that have success in life on the business side, as well as on the technology side, making more money so that they can do well within their career and have success in life. That's what we push over here, guys. Tangeray says, Chang was ready for that cocktail. Oh, so I probably had misread Jessica's comment. Chang was ready for the cocktail. Yes, Chang was ready to swig. He had his already poured up. When we got to the pre-call, Chang was like, Antoine, I'm going to bring out the blue label so that we can have a toast. And I had to scream and ask my wife to bring the bottle of blue label out so we can make sure we have a toast. But Chang's my boy. Noah said he's going to be booking a coaching session. I appreciate you, brother. Come on in and book a coaching session. I think you have access to the website. Just go to www.blackites.com. Also, if you wanted to get access to my calendar, you can easily do it from one of the videos because I have the links in there as well, too. But guys, I really appreciate you guys rocking with me today. I've had fun. I'm hoping that we could have shared the knowledge of how to get into some of these larger companies. It's about the pursuit, right? It's about taking advantage of the opportunity. It's about pursuing the opportunity. Even if you may be in a good position now, why not do it to learn? Why not do it to improve your interview skills? Why not do it to understand what other companies are doing from a technology standpoint? Why not do it to, potentially gain a higher salary and do well for yourself? So that was the whole point of this video today, guys. Jessica Hicks, thank you so much for joining us in the chat today. I appreciate you as well. But guys, thank you so much for rocking with me today. I had fun, and I am going to have dinner with the wife and the kids tonight and, enjoy. We have a long weekend, guys. Have a good rest of your weekend. Have a good, fantastic Monday on this holiday weekend. Go and spend some time with your friends and your family. Make sure that you guys are taking care of yourself. Don't drink too much whiskey because I'm not going to be. I didn't even finish this glass right here. But until next time, y'all, peace.